Talk to me. Guys, what's happening?
I think you just met the Talon.
These videos are not for children. If you're a children, then piss off.
Hey there, it's me, your least favorite YouTuber, the Infuso. And never before have I felt more reassured of that title, because last month I asked y'all to take to my comments section and let me know if my torture should end at episode 1 or continue throughout the duration of Gotham Knights, and as you might have guessed, my suffering is at least a season long. With that being said, let's just get real sad. Let's just get real upset. Let's get right on into it. Gotham Knights Episode 2. And boy oh boy, do I have some opinions. I'm gonna start off with a bit of a shocking statement here, and if it's a surprise to you, just know that it's a bigger surprise to me in saying that. Gotham Knights isn't always bad. It really isn't. Honestly, surprisingly, shockingly, it is not. But unfortunately, it is most often bad, and when it's bad, it's atrocious. Which is a real shame, because when it's good, it's almost promising. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking and praising this as a reasonable Batman adaptation. It fails on every fundamental front in translating what makes this mythos great. However, there's surprisingly genuinely entertaining elements of the show that actually work. The problem is that those elements exist independently of anything Batman. I actually feel like when stuff from the source is brought up, it brings the whole experience down. Because the show goes from doing something original well, to doing something pre-established badly. One thing I sort of neglected in my first review / paint session is just how awful the Talon outfit looked in this. You only see it for a millisecond there, but that's at least a nanosecond too long. Don't get me wrong, it looks like the character's costume, but it looks like the character's costume on a budget. This looks like some really cheap Comic-Con cosplay. As a matter of fact, I take that back because most Comic-Con cosplays are both more expensive looking and also more accurate looking than this. It is a major downgrade from what came before it. And mind you, what came before it was nothing. Like I said before, this show is at its all-time worst when it's referencing material outside of its own narrative. These outside elements don't seem like they're at home at all in this series. They feel like unwelcome guests that don't know when to take their exit. Hearing characters unironically call it the Bat Computer is eye-rolling to say the least. Like, how could you not cringe? It's hard to fault the series as that existed prior to the show, but no one in canon really calls it the Bat Computer anymore. You know, there's certain elements that maybe you just want to keep back in 1966. Call it the Bat Computer when not everyone had a computer in their home. You know, that's new technology to them. Calling it a Bat Computer in 2023 is like calling it the Bat TV or the Bat Remote. Yeah, I just feel like we should have an unspoken agreement here as Batman fans that Batman calls his vehicles and flying devices Bat. We leave it at that. Gadgets and transportation devices. That's it. It just feels weird hearing a bunch of teens call it the Bat Computer. It's really goofy. You got a Bat Cave, a Batmobile, a Batwing, the other Batwing. That's enough. Stephanie Brown's father, the Clue Master, gets a name drop. Even that just feels completely unnecessary. Not that I'm one to usually be annoyed by fan service, but the general public doesn't know about Arthur Brown, and the ones who do don't really care about a third-rate Riddler ripoff. I'm sorry, no disrespect, just saying. That's a big problem I have with the series because the parts of the lore that it spends its time acknowledging are the most obscure portion of the mythos that nobody is looking forward to shoutouts for. Most people don't understand the references that they're making, or what it is they're trying to allude to, because most people only have a surface level understanding of the Batman lore. It just feels like you would reference the more integral parts of the continuity. The parts of the canon that people who aren't fans of know. These kinds of Easter eggs they appeal to a certain type of fan. It appeals to somebody who knows too much about Batman. Somebody like me. The problem is that this show does not know enough about Batman, so it would alienate people like me from the potential brand. So it just leads me to my question, who is this show for, and is anybody enjoying it? If you're gonna make a reference, make it a reference to stuff that people know about. Although I'm also a hypocrite because I did enjoy Bruce's passcode in this episode being 1939, which was the year Batman was created. I thought that was pretty... Not bad. Not bad, Gotham Knights. Not bad. And I also appreciated watching Carrie Kelley climb into her apartment window, which is something she's been known to do before. I also gotta say, I love the fact that despite the fact that we're now in a timeline where Bruce Wayne is canonically dead, and there is no Batman, we still need to mention the murder of the Waynes any chance that we get. Did those two do anything notable other than die? Honestly. More on that in a minute. The big problem I have with Gotham Knights is that if you took everything DC related out of this series, you'd probably have a pretty solid original show. I mean, I don't think that I would be a part of the audience, but there would be an audience. My big problem is that a lot of the things Batman-centric in this, if not everything Batman-centric in this, almost feels tacked on last minute. It feels like it's done without purpose. Like, I understand it's not a Batman show because Batman's not in it, but it is a Batman show because it's based on the Batman brand. And I don't feel like this is a part of the Batman brand. So then it makes you think, like, why use it then? When it's just telling its own story, it's fine. It's when it begins trying to explain other stories when it really just starts coming apart. Tonally, the show feels all over the place. As I've mentioned before, I get the feeling that the show wants to be Riverdale, except some of the time it dives too deep into hokey territory, and it's showcasing effects that wouldn't have cut it in Smallville. It's trying to present itself as being serious while it's showcasing pure goof. Even worse off is that it's not even consistent. The show just sometimes forgets how to approach its subject matter midway. It doesn't balance itself all that great, and the show in general just feels very indecisive as to what its identity is. Although, to be fair, those growing pains are understandable as we're only in episode 2. I will say it's kinda weird seeing Gotham City juxtaposed adolescence and school life. I don't think the show does the greatest job of juggling the two, but I also don't think that that's an impossible task. I mean, I enjoyed Buffy the Vampire Slayer when I was younger, and that pretty much did the same thing they're trying to do here. I just don't know that this is done nearly as effectively. Now that we got all that out of the way, let's move on to this episode's plot. I like that this show has a steady narrative rather than an episodic format. The season arc is the titular Gotham Knights hiding away from the GCPD while trying to figure out who killed Batman and framed them for his murder. The only problem is that we already answered that question at the end of the pilot, which leaves us in this weird sort of limbo. I understand why you'd want to introduce the thread of the season to your audience immediately. I get it, truly I do. But it does speed along the process and kind of turns a whodunit into a who did it? Oh, that guy. At the end of the previous episode, the crooked cop had a Talon sent for his head. And in this episode, we see that that head is delivered back to the GCPD, from wherest it came. And just to make sure it wasn't getting lonely, the court was kind enough to collect the heads of all the officers on the case. Oh, that was sweet of them. But here's the issue I have with that. Unless the end reveal is that this is all part of some grand plan, I have a really hard time believing that the Court of Owls is competent enough to behead an entire division of police officers, whilst while hiding in shadow and secrecy, but is also incompetent enough to not know the teens that they're trying to frame are hiding away inside the Watchtower. You want me to believe that they were able to identify and kill Batman, but somehow Turner Hayes is just too smart for them. Like, you know what, pick a lane. It can't be both. In the meantime, the falsely accused teens are looking to prove their innocence by committing more crimes. Smart. They devise a plan to break into Wayne Tower, so they can gain access to Bruce's files on the Court of Owls, which they only know about because of Robin over here. And yes, I know that she doesn't look like Robin. There's nothing about her that says that she is a Robin, but the script is saying she is, so I will be referring to her as that throughout. But this development makes me wonder, once again, how well did Robin know Batman? She made it seem like she was basically a freelance crime fighter who worked with him on the job once or twice. If anything, their relationship seems to be a lot more similar to Batman's original working relationship with Batgirl. But she also knew his secret identity and knew where he stored some of his most private information. What was the nature of the dynamic in this dynamic duo? Is there a team history? I'm not even complaining at this point. I'm just trying to understand this show's lore. It's like they want to ride the line and have her both as an unknown occasional helper, but also someone who had a deep, meaningful relationship with Bruce Wayne. Which one is it? It can't be both. If I'm taking Batman out of the equation and I'm just looking at the show in general, I have a really hard time not hating every character on the show. Stephanie Brown, like, oh man, where do I begin? You know, for someone who's dated a hero, been a hero several times over, and had a father that was a supervillain, you really don't know how to keep a secret, do ya? She just readily gives up highly incriminating information to her boyfriend. Information, mind you, that could get her, her best friend, and all those associated with them thrown in prison. She gave that up to his worst enemy. You would think maybe you'd want to sit on that and keep it private for a while. You know, just so this way when it's later revealed that he's either a member of the court or that his father is a member of the court, it won't somehow screw over Dill Grayson over here. Then you have Turner and Carrie, little Batman Jr. and Girl Robin, leaving Cullen, Harper, and Duella in the getaway car by themselves. And that's the three who are somewhat reluctantly going along with this plan. The three who are legitimate criminals. The three who don't really have a relationship with either Turner or Carrie. They leave them alone in the getaway car. Why? Why would you do that? This goes beyond asking for trouble. This is approaching trouble, tapping it lightly on the shoulder to get its attention, and then asking it to punch you in the face. How could neither of the two leading good guys not have seen the obvious potential problem here? Look, if you want me to believe that Turner would do something that foolish, I know precious little about him. I'm willing to go with it. Maybe he would. But big brains Carrie Kelley? No way. You don't become Batman's only sort of sidekick by making those kinds of dumb decisions. I do not approve. Upon breaking in and stealing information, little Mr. Not Damian Wayne over here finds his father's journal conveniently left out in the open. A little red book which details the Court of Owls slaughtering generations of Waynes. And that Bruce has worked this case his whole life, trying and failing to prove so much as their existence. There is so much wrong with this. Okay, so I know I shouldn't get as analytical as I'm about to get, given that this is the show that we're talking about, but you know it's inevitable. I'm gonna. Talon and the Court of Owls being responsible for Bruce's family's death. I know that this isn't the only place it's done. I have issues with other candidates for this crime as well, but I think that's probably a video for a different day. I think my biggest issue with this change is that Batman's quest for justice now comes across as total unhinged obsession brought on by revenge. And that really isn't Batman. I know that a lot of people seem to think that Batman is vengeance, but he's not. Not entirely, anyway. Whereas Batman sought out previously to avenge his family through stopping the crime of others, making sure no one experienced what he experienced. Now he's just a guy who wants to avenge his family. Period. Another issue I have is that they state that Bruce Wayne found nothing when looking for the Court of Owls. He couldn't even prove that they existed. He didn't even know that they were real. He might as well have been searching for Sasquatch or the Loch Ness Monster. Couldn't even prove that they were not made up in all his days. And yet here is their mascot making his presence known for Tom Drake. Are they mysterious masked men who are thought of as myths or not? If they're under such a veil of secrecy, why would they break that to confirm their presence here? Bruce obviously couldn't find the Court of Owls' nest, which leads me to believe that sooner or later, somewhere down the line, the land of the misfit toys will somehow manage to do that. And at that point, I'm gonna grow hair and rip it out of my head. I don't know, that's gonna be a really tough sell. The fact that they survive a Talon attack twice in this episode really completely discredits Batman. It's amazing how even in the shows that he's not present for, the IP's minuscule, minimal involvement, those are somehow the shows that completely ruin the character and do no favors of his reputation. Even when he's not, actually, especially when he's not present, this man cannot stop taking L's. If you are a fan of the Court of Owls or the Talon character, it's over for you. You will approach this episode looking like Don Corleone.
Look how they massacred my boy.
He's yet to speak a line of dialogue, but the character has already been completely butchered. Talon is supposed to be this expert assassin, one of the most serious threats Batman's ever come across. Hell, this Batman died at his hands. Then what is he doing there aggressively poking a locked door with a sword? First off, how does he even find himself in this situation? Two 90-pound seniors leaning against a door is enough to keep this guy at bay? And then they trap him inside by placing katanas in the door handles, and that works somehow? It should not be this easy to get one over on this guy, especially if he's taken out everyone he's ever come across with such ease. He doesn't even nick either of them with the sword when he's stabbing at them. Somehow, everyone makes it out of this encounter alive. A Talon was sent for their heads, but it missed the mark by a country mile. Matters are made even goofier later when he tries and fails to break the window to a Wayne security car. Yeah, this isn't really making for a captivating villain. And then they get even more worse when Batman's kid and his supposed sidekick actually manage to fight him off on their own. Yeah, you heard that right. They fight off the big bad in the second episode. The guy who without effort took the lives of a police force and the Dark Knight. He gets defeated by a bunch of junior detectives. Mind you, up until this point, we've only seen Turner fence once and Robin just arrive at the scene of a crime with night vision goggles on. But by episode 2, they beat the big bad. That's it. Show's over. Roll credits. We're done. There is no threat to speak of anymore. Talk about too much, too soon, too stupid. While they may have made a major hiccup with Talon, they did at least validate the serious threat that the Court of Owls is in terms of power, showing that the police force and political figures are subservient to them. I like this because it shows how deep the corruption goes, and just how much of the city is now against our protagonists. But back to the criminals back at the scene of the crime. The three contemplate leaving the Dynamic Duds. Of course, Duella is the one to suggest it, and for a moment, Harper's all in as well, keeping her brother Cullen and his safety in mind. But Cullen himself is not convinced, and states that he wants to stay and prove his innocence. These little moments tell a lot about the characters. We can see that Duella is a selfish person who only has her own best interests in mind, and we later see that she's always looking out for herself because she believes that she's the only person who will. She's not a trustworthy person because she herself doesn't trust others. We see that Harper is willing to do bad things to help the people that she loves, and that she prioritizes her brother over everything else. But most importantly in this moment, we learn who Cullen is as a character. And Cullen Rowe in this actually isn't bad. Out of every character in the show, he probably has the most depth. He's so hellbent on clearing his name because it's the name that he's chosen, and he's not going to let anybody dictate who he is. You can understand given his upbringing and given how someone like him has probably been treated most of his life, where this headstrong mindset comes from. That's some pretty powerful stuff, and it paints a clearer picture as to who this person is. It's really unfortunate that it's glossed over in passing, but I think it's a well-executed moment that kind of exists as a window into this character. It's also weird that it happened on this show. It seems like that would be something better on a show that was good. Despite Duella not trusting anyone and even leaving the team behind, they eventually come to her rescue, proving their loyalty even if she sort of disproved hers. It seems like the show is flirting with the idea of pairing Joker's daughter and Batman's son up, which seems about right. Given the Bat family's men and their unfortunate attraction to women on the wrong side of the law, this feels very on brand. Although it does sort of feel like it comes out of nowhere, but whatever. I can't complain about this not following canon when they're literally making their own thing up as they go along. In addition to this, they're kind of doing this other weird love triangle between Turner, Stephanie Brown, and Brody March. For some reason, you know, it's teenage angst is the thing, we gotta create some drama. There's a bunch of things in this that just don't work for me, or at the very least are very questionable. Brody March takes the bullet for Stephanie and tells the GCPD that he hacked the banks in Gotham, and then he's allowed to walk out of the officer's office scot-free? Yeah, alright. The way Talon goes about trying to kill Joker's daughter actually looks pretty awesome. I don't think that such a thing would work in real life, but cinematically it works even if realistically it wouldn't. For as good as Misha's performance as Harvey Dent is, Some of the time he just feels like he's there. He doesn't always factor into things. I really don't want to continue to rag on this actor because I truly don't know if it's him or the lack of direction that he's given, but I still have absolutely no idea what they're going for with Turner Hayes. I never know what he's thinking, what he's feeling, what he's trying to emote at any given second. I don't know. I know nothing about him. He is a nothing person. I'm sorry, but I cannot stand this character. I understand that he's meant to know little so that we, the audience, are learning with him, and we get to see him develop as a person. But in order to see development, he'd need to already be a person, which he is not. Nothing about this character ever seems realistic, and the actor looks so uncomfortable, it's almost like he's just as clueless as I am watching him. His delivery is so stilted, his reactions are non-existent, he seems so unsure of everything that he does and says that it's a little painful to watch. It's not even that he's trying and failing, it's that I'm not even sure what he's going for to begin with. Here, you make heads or tails on these scenes. I want your thesis in the comment section below as to what this character is thinking, what this character is feeling, and what this character is trying to express and convey. Is he supposed to be smart? Is he supposed to be suave? Is he supposed to be smug? I don't know, but he is none of the above and so much less. Again, I'm not familiar with this guy's work. I'm willing to say it may not even be him, and it could improve over time. But I hope that time sooner rather than later, because I don't know how much longer I can see him fidget with his hands while his eyes dart across the screen like he's looking for answers to the questions I'm asking. Robin, I hate Robin. I don't hate Robin, actually. I hate that she is Robin. I hate that her costume in no way resembles Robin's. I hate that her backstory isn't clarified. I hate that we haven't had enough time to fully flesh out her character. I like the actress. I actually think that she's pretty good in the role. But I haven't even seen enough of her to fully commit to that statement. And I also feel mostly the same towards Stephanie Brown. Harper, I have some mixed feelings on. Acting-wise, there's not a thing wrong with this performance. The character itself sometimes I think is a little too on the nose and in your face. She has the most painful dialogue out of everybody. It is almost always awful. I don't even disagree with the things that she's saying. It's just how she's saying them and how often she says them. Like, alright dude, I know you're right, but like, get another personality trait, please. Although I don't know how much I can even reasonably complain about this. Yes, it's really on the nose and it's consistently annoying, but I also know plenty of people in my own personal life who talk just like this. So, in a way, it's quite spot on. Though I will say it's a bit of an odd move to make one of your main characters soul-drainingly irritating, especially when you're trying to endear an audience to that character. I think what saves her from being the absolute worst is her selfless nature toward her family. You can tell that she sees herself as her brother's protector, and maybe even serves more of a motherly role to him than an actual sister. She puts his best interests before her own constantly, and it's that selflessness that brings a better balance for Harper Row. Speaking of her brother, I was genuinely surprised to see how much of a personality Cullen actually has. Whereas in the first episode he barely got any time to establish himself, here he's allowed to have a personality. I'm not even talking about that one scene that informs us of the character's moral compass. Just in general, in the opening, the way that they showed him making quips and trading banter with those that he worked with. It was great. More of that, please. It's funny because he was definitely one of the more dull aspects of the first episode, yet he is the highlight of episode 2. The Duella character is really making the show watchable for me. She's the only one consistently nailing it every scene that she's in. She sells crazy wild child well, and the actress makes sure that it feels more like a personality than it does a persona. She quite literally laughs in the face of danger when she's in the comfort of safety. As of right now, by far she is my favorite character, right behind Harvey Dent, who is also one of the show's few highlights. The one thing I will compliment the series on is that I think the dialogue can sometimes be solid. Again, like everything else I said, it's not consistent, so that sucks. It goes from sounding smart to sounding stupid and everything in between from one scene to the next. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and other times it makes you want to watch the show on mute. But I will credit them, sometimes it is good. So that is an improvement. So that's something. The episode ends revealing that Robin might be hiding something, as she's shown to have ripped out the last few pages of the Bat Journal to hide them from Turner. And that's episode 2. It was an improvement when compared to episode 1, but that puts me in a bad spot because I want to entertain you guys, and in order to thoroughly entertain you, I feel like the episodes either need to be significantly worse or significantly better. This is just kind of towing the line. This was like very in between. There was good and there was a bad. So let's hope that episode 3 is either awesome or awful. So with all that being said, if you enjoyed this video and want to see me review the next episode, let me know in the comment section below by leaving a comment saying,
Gotham needs its true hero.
I was your least favorite YouTuber, Infuso, and I thank you for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.
I am vengeance. I am the knight, and that was Infuso. Just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.
So, if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, and you too would like to become a V-generate, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, nerds!
And if you're not joining the fun, you're in for one bad day. And you know what they say about having one bad day?
Catch him next time. Same bat time. Same bat channel.